The evening unfolded with the kind of forced brightness only a housewarming party could hold. The new home smelled faintly of fresh paint and wood polish, as if trying too hard to convince everyone that this was a perfect beginning. Maya, 42, stood at the center of it all, the main protagonist. She moved from guest to guest with a host's practiced smile, her dark hair swept into an elegant twist, her dress chosen not for comfort but for control. It hugged her figure just enough to remind her husband, if he bothered to look, what he risked. Her husband, Daniel, trailed nearby, all charm and casual laughter. He was 50, still holding on to the confidence of a man used to attention. His voice carried easily, the kind people turned toward without realizing it. And tonight it carried most often in the direction of one woman. The neighbor, Claire. She was 32, all blonde hair and wide-eyed enthusiasm, clutching her wineglass like it was a lifeline. She had lived next door barely a year, but her presence already seemed too ingrained, too familiar. Every time Maya looked over, Claire was smiling at Daniel, and Daniel was smiling back in a way Maya had cataloged, memorized, and loathed. The living room buzzed with chatter. Someone admired the marble countertops in the kitchen. Another praised the size of the backyard, hinting at summer barbecues. Maya's friends asked her about decorating plans, and she answered lightly, as if her mind wasn't split in two. One part counting hors d'oeuvres on trays, the other tracing Daniel's every glance across the room. "Your home is beautiful," said Jill, a neighbor from down the street. She squeezed Maya's hand warmly. "Thank you," Maya said, her voice steady. "It finally feels like ours." Daniel appeared at her side, hand resting lightly on her back, the gesture polished, rehearsed. "We're so glad you all could make it," he said. "This block already feels like family." From across the room, Claire laughed at something one of the guests had said. Daniel's eyes darted there for half a second too long. Maya felt his hand on her back stiffen, then retreat. Jill didn't notice. She was already complimenting the wine selection. "You've outdone yourselves." Maya forced a smile. Daniel picked it. "Only the best for our first night here," Daniel said with a grin, raising his glass. Claire caught his eye and raised hers too. They clinked glasses from across the room, silent but seen. Maya swallowed the heat crawling up her throat. She excused herself under the pretense of checking the food. In the kitchen, she steadied her hands on the counter. The granite was cool, grounding. She drew a slow breath, then another. When she turned back, Daniel had drifted closer to Claire. Their conversation looked innocent enough, tilted heads, polite smiles, but Maya had lived with Daniel too long not to recognize the charge in his body language. The lean, the hand, gesture, the way his jaw softened. She saw it all, and she tucked it into her chest like kindling. The guests moved freely between rooms, laughter bouncing against high ceilings. Maya joined them again, holding a platter of stuffed mushrooms, her mask back in place. "Try one," she urged a guest. "Delicious," came the reply, muffled with food. Daniel appeared again, touching her elbow as if nothing was wrong. "Everything's perfect," he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. "Perfect," Maya repeated. Her eyes flicked toward Claire, who was standing close enough now that their shoulders might brush. The music in the background shifted, something jazzy, light. People clapped in rhythm, joking about dancing. Maya laughed with them, though the sound felt brittle in her throat. Claire joined their circle. "You two really know how to throw a party," she said brightly. Daniel chuckled. "We're just following your example. Remember your summer barbecue? Best ribs I've had in years." Claire blushed, waving him off. "Stop, you'll make me sound like I know what I'm doing." "You do," Daniel said. Maya cut in, her tone smooth. "He's just being polite. I've been trying to recreate those ribs ever since. No luck." Claire's smile faltered for half a beat before she recovered. "I'll give you the recipe." The moment was small, but Maya pocketed it like a weapon. The doorbell rang again, another couple arriving late, and the distraction broke the tension. Daniel hurried off to greet them, Claire trailing after, leaving Maya standing in the center of the room with her wineglass. She held it so tightly that the stem pressed into her palm. Around her, voices swirled, easy and oblivious. But for Maya, the evening had already shifted. She wasn't just hosting a party anymore. She was taking notes, gathering evidence, preparing for the performance she hadn't yet decided whether she would stage tonight. For now, she smiled. For now, she moved gracefully among the guests. But in the quiet corners of her mind, the script was already writing itself. The section closes with her standing at the edge of the room, watching Daniel lean in just a little too close to Claire. The music drowns out her silence, but the look in her eyes says everything. This night won't end the way anyone expects. The party grew louder as the night edged forward, wine loosening tongues and laughter ringing through the freshly painted rooms. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary celebration. Neighbors gathered, friends toasting, stories flowing as if nothing existed beyond those walls. But for Maya, every second stretched thin, every sound sharp against her nerves. She wasn't just a hostess anymore. She was an observer, cataloging details no one else noticed. Claire had positioned herself near the fireplace, speaking animatedly to two guests about her recent trip to Italy. Her hands moved with flair, describing gelato flavors and Tuscan sunsets. But when Daniel slipped beside her, Maya caught it, the subtle dip of Claire's shoulders toward him, the way his grin widened just slightly. Maya's jaw tightened. She moved closer to refill glasses, pretending her only concern was keeping everyone's drinks topped up, but her ears tuned only to their exchange. "So, Florence in the spring?" Daniel asked, voice laced with interest that went beyond casual conversation. Claire laughed. "Yes, I could live there forever, honestly." "You'd miss the neighborhood too much," Daniel said smoothly. Claire's cheeks warmed. "Maybe," Maya interjected, her voice even. "Careful, Claire. Talk like that, and Daniel will start looking at travel brochures tonight." Daniel turned to her with a light chuckle. "Can you blame me? She makes it sound like paradise." Maya's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Paradise always comes with a price tag." The couple listening laughed, oblivious to the undercurrent. Maya moved on, but her grip on the wine bottle trembled ever so slightly. The living room glowed with amber light, but inside her, shadows collected. Every polite laugh from Daniel in Claire's direction was a stone dropping in her stomach. She thought of the last month, his sudden insistence on evening jogs, his urgent work calls that always ended with his phone face down, and the way he seemed more alive walking back from the neighbor's house than he ever looked at stepping into theirs. Her suspicions weren't born tonight. They had been growing quietly like mold behind wallpaper. But here in the open, with witnesses all around, she saw it playing out in real time. She leaned against the wall, taking a long sip of wine. Guests floated past her, chatting about schools, mortgages, the best contractors for home repairs. Normal conversations, normal lives. Meanwhile, she watched her husband nod too attentively at another woman's stories and wondered if everyone else was blind or just polite. "Everything all right?" Jill appeared again, tilting her head in concern. "Of course," Maya said quickly. "Why?" "You're quiet, not like you." Maya softened her voice. "First party in a new place. I just want it to go well." Jill smiled. "It's perfect, don't worry." She squeezed Maya's hand before moving away. Perfect, the word rang hollow. Later, while delivering a tray of desserts, Maya caught another detail. Daniel brushing his hand lightly across Claire's back as he leaned in to whisper something. A fleeting gesture, gone in an instant, but undeniable. Claire stiffened, then laughed too loudly, covering the slip. Maya set the tray down a little harder than necessary, the plates rattling. Heads turned briefly, but she smiled and waved it off. "Slippery hands," she said. Inside, though, her chest burned. She retreated to the hallway mirror for a moment, staring at her reflection. Her face looked composed, practiced, but her eyes betrayed the storm. She pressed her lips together until they hurt. Behind her, she heard Daniel's laugh carry again. Low, familiar, intimate, the sound that once belonged only to her. Back in the living room, someone turned the music up. A group started dancing, laughter spilling into every corner. The energy rose, almost too bright, masking the darker current running just beneath. Maya drifted back into the circle, her movements deliberate, her smile unshaken. She offered cake to a group chatting nearby, nodded at compliments about the house. All the while, her gaze flicked, again and again, to Daniel and Claire. At one point, Claire excused herself to the restroom. Daniel's eyes followed her until she disappeared around the corner. Maya caught it. She always caught it. When Claire returned, freshened up and glowing, Daniel's face lit in a way he hadn't shown her in months. Maya's nails dug into her palm, leaving crescents in her skin. The night stretched on. Guests clinked glasses, reminisced about old jobs, swapped jokes about neighborhood quirks. On the surface, everything gleamed. But Maya stood at the edge of it, wine swirling in her glass, watching cracks spiderweb across the glossy finish of her marriage. She lifted the glass, staring at the dark red liquid as though it held an answer. When she tilted it back for another sip, the stem nearly snapped in her grip. The fracture wasn't just in the glass. It was everywhere, in every smile, every word, every lingering glance between Daniel and Claire. And Maya, hostess of the evening, felt the weight of it settle over her. The night wasn't breaking yet, but she knew with a clarity sharp as glass that the breaking was coming. By now, the party had hit its stride. The wine bottles stood half empty on the counter, plates with crumbs and smudges of frosting scattered across tables. The music drifted softer, a background hum instead of a pulse, leaving more space for voices. Maya moved among the guests with a grace that felt mechanical, her body doing the work of a hostess, while her mind tracked only two people, Daniel and Claire. They had positioned themselves near the window, talking with another couple about neighborhood watch groups. To anyone else, it looked harmless. To Maya, it looked staged. Too neat. Too careful. She decided to test the waters. Carrying a tray of fresh glasses, she approached the group and smiled warmly. Is this where the real neighborhood planning happens? Should I be worried you're plotting late-night stakeouts? The couple laughed. Daniel smirked. Claire shook her head quickly. Not at all, Claire said, voice light. We were just saying how nice it feels to have everyone so close. Makes you feel looked after. Maya tilted her head, her smile edged. Yes, Claire. You've certainly had plenty of looking after. The couple chuckled, oblivious, and drifted away with their drinks. But Claire's eyes flickered, catching the weight of the words. Daniel straightened, his jaw tightening for a fraction of a second. Careful, Daniel murmured, low enough only Maya could hear. Careful, Maya echoed, setting the tray down on the coffee table with a sharp click. I'm just making conversation. Claire gave a polite laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Maya, you're so funny. Am I? Maya asked, sipping her wine, her gaze unwavering. The room felt warmer now, though the thermostat hadn't moved. Guests chatted near the kitchen about real estate. Someone played with the Bluetooth speaker trying to cue a new playlist. It was all ordinary, except for the triangle of tension anchored between Maya, Daniel, and Claire. Maya slipped back into the larger group, letting her comments drip like tiny drops of acid into the party's pleasant surface. When a guest asked Daniel about the new grill, Maya jumped in. Oh, Daniel's practically a handyman these days, always popping next door to fix something. Claire, I don't know how you'd manage without him. A few heads turned, curious, but Claire waved her hand. He was just being neighborly. Neighborly, Maya repeated, nodding. That's one word for it. Laughter rippled uneasily around the circle. Someone changed the subject to sports, but the damage was done. The note of unease lingered like a wrong chord in a song. Daniel tried to keep control. He leaned into his practiced charm, laughing louder, asking questions, steering talk toward safer ground. But Maya shadowed him, each comment of hers slightly too sharp, each smile a little too thin. Do you two cook together often? Someone asked, gesturing at Maya and Daniel. Only when he's home, Maya said smoothly. Then she turned to Claire. Maybe you should lend me your recipe for ribs. Daniel raves about them more than anything I make. Claire's cheeks pinked. Oh, it's nothing special. It must be, Maya cut in. I can't compete. The silence after the remark was brief but heavy. A guest coughed, changed the topic. But more people were starting to notice now. The undercurrent wasn't hidden anymore. Maya slipped outside for air. The night air was cooler, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and charcoal from some distant grill. She closed her eyes, inhaling, trying to quiet the storm inside. Her reflection stared back at her in the sliding glass door, poised, elegant, but with eyes like flint. She whispered to herself, words meant for no one else. Say it. Just say it. But she didn't. Not yet. The timing wasn't right. Inside, laughter swelled again. She re-entered the living room, her mask intact. But her decision had crystallized. Tonight, she would stop being careful. Back among the guests, she poured herself another glass of wine, her movements slow and deliberate. Daniel caught her eye, his look warning, almost pleading. "Don't," he mouthed. She raised her glass in a mock toast to him. "Relax," she whispered back. But there was no relaxing now. Every word she spoke dripped with double meaning. Every glance she cast toward Claire landed like a strike. "Funny how some people always seem to find extra time," she remarked at one point, swirling her glass. "Somehow more hours in the day than the rest of us get." Claire set down her drink with a trembling hand. "You make it sound like I'm some sort of magician." Maya's smile was slow. "Maybe you are." The guests laughed nervously, caught between humor and discomfort. As the hour edged later, the chatter dulled, voices lowering, the room cozier. But under the warmth of the lights and wine, the storm was no longer invisible. The guests could sense something brewing, even if they couldn't yet name it. Daniel's laughter grew forced. Claire kept sipping her drink, her smile plastered on. And Maya? She was calm, almost serene now. The fire was stoked. The stage was set. She glanced once more at her husband, then at her neighbor, and the thought hardened in her chest. Tonight, the truth would not stay buried. The party was beginning to tilt. Guests were tipsier now, voices louder, laughter looser, but the atmosphere carried a new tension. One Maya had been feeding like a flame. The living room lights gleamed too bright, illuminating every glance, every twitch of a smile. Maya hovered near the center, her glass raised but untouched. Daniel stood beside Claire again, and though their words were inaudible, Maya didn't need to hear. The lean of his shoulders, the softness in his expression, the half-second too long he held her gaze, all of it told a story. Enough. Maya stepped forward, cutting through the chatter. "Everyone," she said brightly, her voice ringing out, "I think we should toast. It's not every day you get to celebrate a new beginning." Glasses lifted, guests turning toward her. Daniel smiled, relief flickering. Finally, something normal. Maya let the pause stretch, savoring the silence that fell. Then she looked directly at Claire. "Tell them, Claire," she said. "Tell everyone how you and Daniel got so close during our move." The words dropped heavy, shattering the easy rhythm of the night. Daniel blinked, his smile faltering. "Maya," his voice was low, controlled. "That's enough." Claire's face flushed crimson. I was just helping." "Oh, helping," Maya said, her tone light, almost playful. "Helping with boxes, helping with tools, helping in ways neighbors don't usually help." Nervous laughter fluttered through the group, but quickly died. Guests glanced at one another, shifting uncomfortably. The air had changed. This was no longer banter. "Stop it," Daniel muttered, jaw tight. "You've had too much to drink." Maya laughed, sharp and cold. "Don't insult me with cliches, Daniel. I'm not drunk. I'm observant." The room stilled. Claire clutched her glass as though it might protect her. Daniel's hand curled into a fist at his side. One of the guests cleared his throat. "Maybe, we should—" "No," Maya cut him off, her voice steady. "We should stay. We should listen." Daniel tried again, softer this time, his voice edged with warning. "Maya, please, not here." "Why not here?" she asked. "Isn't this the perfect stage? All our new neighbors, all our old friends, gathered together to welcome us to this lovely home. Shouldn't they know what's being welcomed inside it?" Claire's voice cracked. "It's not—" Maya turned to her sharply. "Then what is it, Claire? Go on. Explain to everyone why my husband can't seem to stop orbiting around you. Explain why his phone lights up with your name late at night. Explain why he smells like your perfume when he swears he was working late." The crowd gasped softly, murmurs spreading. Jill covered her mouth with her hand. Another neighbor whispered something into her partner's ear, eyes wide. Claire shook her head furiously. It's not what it looks like." Maya stepped closer, her eyes locked on her. "Then tell me what it is. Tell us all." Daniel grabbed Maya's arm, trying to pull her back. "Enough," he snapped. "You're humiliating yourself." Maya wrenched free, her voice rising. No, Daniel. You humiliated me. I'm just giving you the audience you deserve. The music still played faintly in the background, absurd against the charged silence. Someone fumbled with the speaker to turn it off, leaving only the heavy breathing of the three at the center. Daniel's face flushed with anger. You're imagining things. You're twisting everything. Maya laughed again, low and bitter. Imagining? I suppose I imagined the text messages, the ones where she called you sweetheart, or the night you left for a jog and I saw you walking into her house instead. Was that my imagination too? Claire's lip trembled. Maya, please. Please what? Maya snapped. Please stop. Please don't expose the truth. I've been swallowing this poison for weeks, Claire. Tonight I spit it out. The guests were frozen, some averting their eyes, others staring openly. It felt like theater, except the actors were bleeding in real time. Daniel raised his voice, desperate now. This is insane. You're paranoid. She's our neighbor, for God's sake, that's all. Then why? Maya said, her tone dropping to a deadly calm. Did you tell her you loved her? The words detonated like a bomb. Claire gasped. Daniel's face went slack, and the room erupted in whispers. You don't know what you're talking about, Daniel said. But the conviction was gone. His voice shook. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Maya's voice was steady, each word a blade. And now so does everyone else. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. No one moved. Guests clutched glasses like lifelines, their faces a mix of pity and horror. Maya stood tall, wineglass in hand, her expression serene despite the storm raging in her chest. She had delivered the first blow, and the room would never return to the safe, bright chatter it had known minutes before. This wasn't a party anymore. It was an unmasking, and the masks had only just begun to fall. The living room was no longer a party. It was a stage, a courtroom, and a battlefield all at once. Guests huddled in clusters, whispering behind their glasses, eyes darting between Maya, Daniel, and Claire. The festive buzz had curdled into stunned silence, broken only by the occasional nervous cough or clink of a glass hastily set down. Maya stood tall, her spine a rod of steel, her voice cutting clean through the murmurs. You want to deny it, Daniel? Fine. Let's make it easy for you. Let's lay it out step by step. Daniel rubbed his forehead, his voice low and sharp. Not here. We'll talk about this privately. No, Maya said louder now. We're done with privacy. Secrets rot in the dark. Tonight, we open the windows. Gasps rippled through the room. Claire's eyes brimmed with tears, her hands trembling as she clutched the hem of her blouse. Maya took a step closer, her words steady, deliberate. 2 weeks ago, I found messages on your phone, Daniel. Claire writing about how she couldn't stop thinking about you, how she wished she could fall asleep with you instead of alone. Does that sound like neighborly conversation to anyone here? A ripple of shock moved through the guests. Jill covered her mouth, shaking her head. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" Daniel's face went red, his mouth opening and closing like a man scrambling for air. You had no right to go through my phone." Maya laughed, humorless. No right? I had every right. I'm your wife. Or had you forgotten? Claire stepped forward, her voice breaking. Maya, please, I swear, it's not what it sounds like. Then what is it, Claire? Maya shot back. Because I also remember the night Daniel told me he was staying late at work. Except I drove past the office, and his car wasn't there. Know where it was? She pointed toward the wall dividing their two homes. Parked outside your house. The room buzzed louder now, whispers overlapping like static. The neighbors shifted, uncomfortable, as if caught in a storm they couldn't escape. Claire's face crumpled, tears spilling. It wasn't supposed to... She stopped herself, covering her mouth with shaking hands. Maya seized on it. It wasn't supposed to what, Claire? Get out? Be seen? Or maybe it wasn't supposed to end. Daniel snapped then, his voice booming. Enough! Stop twisting this into some spectacle. You're humiliating yourself, not me. Maya turned to him slowly, her gaze cutting. Oh, Daniel, you're humiliated because your mask slipped. I'm just pulling it off the rest of the way. The guests didn't know where to look. Some avoided the couple entirely, pretending to be fascinated by the framed photographs on the wall. Others leaned forward, drawn like moths to flame. The air was thick, suffocating, charged with electricity. One of Daniel's friends tried to intervene. "Maybe it's best if we—" "No," Maya said firmly. "Stay. You should hear this too." Her voice softened, but it carried a sharper edge. "Do you all want to know the best part? The night I followed him, because yes, I had to become that woman, sneaking around behind my own husband. I saw them together, in her kitchen, hands where they didn't belong, lips where they didn't belong." A collective gasp erupted. Claire shook her head violently, tears streaking her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Maya's laugh was hollow. "Didn't mean for it to happen? Affairs don't just fall out of the sky, Claire. You opened the door. And Daniel," she turned on him, her voice rising with fury, "you walked right through it." Daniel tried to regain control, his words frantic. "Maya, listen. I was stupid. It was a mistake. It meant nothing." "Nothing?" Her voice cracked with bitter disbelief. "You call late-night phone calls nothing? You call sneaking out of our bed nothing? You call telling her you loved her nothing?" The word "loved" echoed in the silence that followed. Claire let out a sob, collapsing onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands. Maya looked around the room, her eyes sweeping across the guests. "You all came tonight to celebrate our new beginning, to raise a glass to this home, this marriage. Well," she raised her glass high, the liquid trembling within. "Here's the truth. Here's the toast. My husband has been sleeping with the neighbor, and I won't pretend anymore." She slammed the glass down onto the table. It didn't shatter, but the sound cracked through the room like thunder. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then slowly, the unraveling began. A couple by the door whispered excuses and slipped out. Their footsteps hurried. Others followed in awkward clusters, murmuring apologies, leaving half-empty glasses behind. The house emptied piece by piece, the celebration dissolving into wreckage. Through it all, Daniel stood frozen, his face pale, his eyes darting between Maya and Claire. And Claire wept, quietly and helplessly, her mascara streaking down her face. Maya, meanwhile, felt strangely calm. The weight she had carried for weeks was gone, spilled out into the open, undeniable. There would be no going back, and that was the point. As the last of the guests drifted toward the door, Maya's voice cut through once more, softer but final. "This was supposed to be a housewarming. Consider it a warning instead. There are no secrets in these walls anymore." And with that, the party was over. The guests' exodus left silence in their wake, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft thud of doors closing behind them. The once bustling living room was a battlefield now. Glasses abandoned on tables, plates half-eaten, napkins crumpled and forgotten. The glow of the chandelier above felt cruel, exposing every crack. Maya stood in the center, arms folded, her breath steady. She looked less like a hostess now and more like a witness, someone who had delivered her testimony and was watching the guilty squirm. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "What the hell was that, Maya? You had to do this? In front of everyone?" Maya didn't flinch. "Yes, because if I confronted you alone, you'd gaslight me again. Tell me I was paranoid, crazy, drunk. But with witnesses?" She gestured at the door, where the last of their neighbors had slipped out. "Now there's no denying it." Claire sat slumped on the sofa, mascara streaking her cheeks, her hands twisting in her lap. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "Daniel, you told me. You said you'd leave her, that we'd have a future." Maya's head snapped toward her. "Oh, he said that, did he?" Her tone was razor sharp. Daniel's face drained of color. "Claire, shut up." "No," Claire said, her voice suddenly fierce through the tears. "I've been living on scraps of your promises. You said this house was just for show, that you weren't happy, that you loved me." Maya barked a bitter laugh. "Ah, there it is. The script he's been recycling since college. You're not the first, Claire, just the latest." Claire looked gutted. "You said," Daniel interrupted, his voice rising. "Don't listen to her, Claire. She's twisting everything." Maya's eyes narrowed. You really think I need to twist anything? You've done a fine enough job strangling yourself with your own lies. The room fell into a new rhythm now. Accusations volleyed back and forth, desperate and raw. Claire demanded answers. Daniel dodged. Maya punctured every excuse. You told me you were filing for divorce, Claire sobbed. I never said that, Daniel snapped. You did, Claire shouted. In your car last week. You said she was just dragging things out. Maya tilted her head. Dragging things out? Interesting, considering I never even saw the paperwork. Because it doesn't exist. Daniel slammed his fist on the table, rattling the empty glasses. This is out of control. Maya leaned forward, her voice low but searing. No, Daniel, this is control. For the first time in years, I'm the one holding it. Claire's sobs turned quieter now. Not just grief, but humiliation. She looked around the ruined room, realizing what was left of her reputation would never recover. I should go, she whispered, standing on unsteady legs. Maya stepped aside, giving her a clear path to the door. Yes, you should. Run along, neighbor. Lock your door tight tonight. You'll need more than a deadbolt to feel safe in this street after this. Claire's eyes filled again, but she said nothing. She slipped past Daniel, past Maya, and vanished into the night, leaving the faint scent of her perfume in the air. Silence fell. Daniel's shoulders slumped. His voice, when it came, was small. Maya, please, we can fix this. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man she'd built a life with, now standing hollow and exposed. You broke it, she said softly. You don't get to ask me to clean it up. And for the first time all evening, Daniel had nothing left to say. The night had ended, but the wreckage lingered. Empty glasses glistened under the light. A broken plate lay forgotten in the corner, and the faint echo of laughter seemed cruelly embedded in the walls. The house, meant to symbolize a fresh start, now felt heavy with smoke from a fire still smoldering. Maya sat on the edge of the sofa, her dress creased, her heels kicked off. Her hands rested loosely in her lap, but her eyes were sharp, awake. She felt exhausted, yes, but lighter. The weight she had carried privately for weeks had been emptied into the open. Nothing hidden, nothing festering. Daniel hovered in the doorway to the kitchen, his shirt untucked, his face gray with defeat. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Finally he spoke, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry. Maya didn't look up. You're sorry because you got caught, not because you cheated. He stepped closer, desperate. It didn't mean anything. It was stupid. I made a mistake. She raised her gaze to his, steady and unflinching. Stop calling it a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, leaving the milk out. This, she gestured between them, toward the door Claire had walked out of. This was a choice, over and over again. Daniel swallowed hard, words dying in his throat. Maya stood, straightening her dress, regaining her poise. She walked past him into the kitchen, picked up an empty bottle of wine, and set it gently in the recycling bin. The simple sound of glass against glass felt like punctuation. You think we can fix this? She asked finally, turning back to him. Yes, Daniel said quickly, too quickly. We can go to counseling, we can… Maya cut him off with a raised hand. No, Daniel, you can't rebuild trust on a foundation of lies. This house is new, but we're already rotting inside it. Her voice softened, but not with pity, with clarity. Tonight wasn't about destroying you. It was about reclaiming myself. I've lived in your shadow, swallowing doubts, silencing my instincts. That ends here. Daniel's eyes glistened, but he didn't step forward. He knew she wouldn't allow it. Maya moved toward the front door. She opened it, the night air rushing in, cool and sharp. She stood there for a moment, staring into the quiet street where Claire had fled. Neighbors' windows were dark now, blinds pulled tight. Tomorrow, whispers would spread. The story would echo in every driveway, every mailbox exchange. But Maya no longer feared it. She closed the door again, locking it with a firm click. Not as a hostess, not as a betrayed wife, but as a woman drawing a boundary. Daniel hovered, defeated, in the background. Maya turned off the lights one by one, plunging the house into shadows. In the dark, her silhouette moved with calm certainty. She wasn't celebrating a housewarming anymore. She was marking an ending, and a beginning. And when she finally climbed the stairs alone, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom.